Hi, and welcome to this edition of A Conversation With. My name is Jim Marshall from the New Bedford Cable Network, and joining me in studio today as we talk about COVID-19 and stress and anxiety is Dr. Kathleen Mackenzie. She is from the New Bedford Public Schools, but I want to make sure I get the title right. Supervisor of Clinical and Behavioral Services and a Professor of Stress Management at Northeastern University. So you're very busy, but certainly the right person to talk to right now at this time.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, being at the school, I know that's your priority. We've worked with you with other projects, but tell us a little bit about, just from your standpoint here, anything like this, have you ever experienced like this in your professional career?
No, no. I mean, I've been doing crisis work pretty much for the past 30 years. I started out doing crisis work. We are definitely in a crisis situation, there's no doubt about it, and so there's a lot of familiarity, I guess, with what happens during a crisis. You know, people are under stress. A lot of people go into fight or flight mode, get very anxious. So that all feels very familiar to me. But no, we're in uncharted territory right now.
I was just going to say the magnitude, I guess, is really the big thing, is because it's not just a handful of people when you're dealing with crisis management. It's everyone. It's everybody.
Yeah, everyone.
And from your standpoint, it's do you change your game plan when you're looking at this, as your methods or what have you, or is it really the same basic things that you've learned and you've been practicing for 30 years?
I would say it's the same basic things. Yeah. Taking into consideration, of course, the magnitude of it. But I think because it is of such magnitude, self-care is really a very important thing to be very intentional about right now.
The school department, I think, has done a great job. They've been engaging with kids. They have been, providing lunches and what have you. Talk a little bit about, because you're dealing with kids from all ages, and I know you're the supervisor. You're talking to your folks in your department. Walk us through a little bit the differences, I guess, when you're looking at the ages and the things that you have to deal with.
I think in general right now, a very important thing to do right now is to be aware of the fact that, everybody's sort of like taking time to clean their environment, right? Breaking out the Lysol and all of that. But really we want to also clean our environment, mentally and emotionally, right? So we've got a lot of information coming in through our digital media and electronics and all of that. So we want to be very careful. Because we have kind of another vulnerable population out there, which would be people who have genetic predispositions for anxiety and depression. And so regardless of age, we really want to be careful of the information that we're allowing into our homes. Make sure that you limit the amount of negative information that you're consuming every day. And then just try to stick to the facts. Also stick to, if you can establish some type of a routine during the day, that might be helpful as well. And keep up with, you want to put some good stuff in too. There's a lot of really positive things going on out there right now. So, keeping kids engaged in learning, any type of things, there's a lot of information out there virtually now that's free. Even kids who are getting ready for college, there's a lot of free college information out there that you can access. I don't know if you know, but MIT has their whole curricula online for free.
How important is it, especially with I know the kids got their packets in New Bedford schools, I think it was last week if I'm not mistaken. How important, just in the routine, are those packets and doing that schoolwork? I guess they're daily assignments if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so I think that's really important because learning actually stimulates the pleasure centers of the brain. And so keeping kids engaged in learning is one way to keep kids happy, right? And also, as much as you can maintain a sense of normalcy when this is a very, very abnormal situation, but as much as you can maintain a sense of normalcy is also helpful. So maybe getting up at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time every night, having a time where you're doing school and then, time when you're doing fun things and fun activities.
I would imagine that for a lot of kids, school isn't just education. It's their social setting. It's their so this is different and familiar faces that they don't see every day now. I would imagine that the YouTube and because I've seen teachers put up lessons on their YouTube, and the school department's website as well has that. That's also must be a critical element to what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think any way that we can maintain our connections is also helpful, especially because we can't sort of be physically connected with each other anymore. So, as much as we can have familiar faces out there talking directly to the kids, and, at some point, hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit more online in a two-way direction, but we kind of want to get a little bit more guidance around that first before we start doing that.
What do you say? Because I guess when you're talking about the age of parents, and I'll sort of make it elementary, middle, and high school. Obviously, a high school kid, you're going to talk differently than an elementary school kid. Talk to me a sec. What would you say to parents? I guess generically, because I know everybody's specific to their own environment, but in general, what would you say to parents with elementary school age kids? What should they be telling their kids?
Right now we have a situation, right? There's an outbreak, and we just have to, this really is, if you can maintain one perspective here, and that is, we have an outbreak and we're just trying to keep it under control. So this is a community, really a worldwide effort to minimize the spread of a new illness. And if we do that, we'll maintain social distance, we're going to be fine. And everything's going to be fine. Right? So we just have to, it's really just a community effort that we're doing right now.
Can you be, as a parent, can you be more specific with the older the child is? I mean, certainly, the middle school kids, you're talking preteen, teenagers, and then high school, obviously, some of these kids know. They're smart kids. Some of them, like you said, are going to college now, or will be going to college. So the conversations, I guess, change when you look at the generic age groups.
They do. So I would say for older students, really, you want to really be mindful of the information that you're taking in. So you want to say, look, there's a lot of information out there right now. We're going to maybe look at the CDC and get those facts, and then we're going to turn it off for the day, because we don't really need to flood our brain with all of this stuff. It's just going to make us more anxious. It's a really good time, I think, to talk to kids about where to get reliable information and what types of information to avoid, and to really start taking inventory of what types of information you're consuming, and how to figure out what is reliable information, what isn't reliable information, right? So you want to go to, if there's somebody that you have an older child who's more curious, maybe sit down with them on the internet and show them, look, this is reliable information, this is not very reliable information.
I would imagine the Facebooks and the Twitters and stuff, that's probably the not that they're all wrong, but that's where the most misinformation could come from too. Exactly.
Probably in this case you want to just stick to the CDC, right, or the World Health Organization. And then that's it. And then there really is no benefit to listening to this information all day long. In fact, it probably is pretty detrimental, and puts people who have a predisposition for anxiety or depression more at risk of having more symptoms.
I've seen clips of people, and one was a college student actually that I saw a clip of in one of the newscasts, who does suffer from anxiety and was doing well, and then this came about, the virus happened, and he's worried that he's falling back into his old routine.
So I think it's really important to be very intentional now. I'm one that I tend to stay, I watch very minimal news and I tend to stay away from that because of, it can create a lot of anxiety. I find that when I've been around people who are, now they're watching the news, I do meditation, I do relaxation and all that. I do that every day. I find myself I have to do a little bit more, when I've been exposed to some of the news that's out there right now. So I think being very mindful of, relaxing, taking time to exercise, taking time away from all of this information is going to be very, very beneficial for people.
We're talking with Dr. Kathleen Mackenzie from the Bedford Public Schools about stress and anxiety and dealing with that. One of the things I wanted to ask you is I know obviously as supervisor, you don't have the one-on-one contact, but I know you have talked to kids. Have you been pleased or surprised by how the kids have handled what they've seen so far, those that you've interacted with? Have they done well? Or are they doing well?
I think it's mixed. It's
Really?
very mixed,
Okay.
yeah. And I think how people handle things, it really depends on how you're perceiving the situation,
Okay.
right? So I know I've spoken to some folks who think they have to take their shoes off. I mean, it's just like they're having like a very extreme reaction to what's going on. They have to take their shoes off when they come in the house and all of that. And I've also spoken to kids that really maybe don't quite understand it. So I happened to run into one of my students. I was taking a mental health walk by the water, and I ran into, she was, I think she's about 8 now, and she saw me and she wanted to run up and hug me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. As soon as the COVID-19 is over, I'm open for hugs, but right now we can't do that. She seemed to be okay with it.
And that's got to be tough, because I know for a lot, especially elementary kids, they do have that personal contact with their teachers, and that's different for them.
Yes.
Yeah. It's got to be hard. Hard for you, because a lot of those kids need it.
Exactly. And usually I'm not one to like initiate a hug, but I won't, if a child comes up to hug me, I'll hug them back. And so it was tough to say, I can't do that right now, but it's definitely a different environment, no doubt about it. And I'm sure probably even some family members have to, stay quarantined. They might be self-quarantining, or they might have to stay away from other family members, especially if you're somebody that's going out and continuing to work, and if you have somebody that's at home who may be part of that vulnerable population that has a suppressed immune system, or some sort of physical problem that might predispose them to pick up an illness quickly. So. And
you and I were talking before the cameras were rolling, and you're busier now than at any point in the year, for crying out loud. This is what this situation has brought upon the school department, really. Yeah,
for sure, because I think because it is a new situation, where everyone's kind of looking for guidance, looking for direction and whatnot, and so it's it's uncharted territory.
The one thing the doctors that I've been seeing on TV during newscasts, I mean, they do talk about two things. They talk about the mental health and they talk about physical health. And you've mentioned a couple times walking and what have you. The physical activity that kids haven't done, they're still able to, kids are still able to, and the school, the city has said, go out for a walk around the park, or around the beach or something, just keep your distance. How does that physical activity help them mentally as well?
So this is kind of where that stress management piece comes in, right?
Yeah.
So so physical activity, things like meditation, so physical activity like running, walking, jumping jacks, jumping rope, all those kinds of things, as well as like things like meditation, relaxation, guided relaxation, all those types of things. Tai Chi, Qigong, I also do Qigong, yoga. Those things lower stress hormones. And they've done a lot of research showing that when stress hormones go down, immune markers go up. And so, and it's an inverse reaction, right? So if your stress level is going up, of course, your immune system then gets compromised. So it's really super important to keep stress levels as low as possible. And the best way really, I think, to do that is exercise. That's one thing.
And you've, I didn't interrupt, but you've also, indirectly, you're outside. Fresh air is
fresh air is great. Vitamin D.
Important.
Vitamin D. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's true. COVID doesn't like UV rays, so I'm thinking outside is a good place to be. I don't know if that's true or not, but the other thing is sleep, right? So sleep is also very important. I'm a big fan of go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every day, because when you get your, that sets your circadian rhythm. When your circadian rhythm is set, that really that really helps the immune system. The other thing is the immune system really works its best at night, so you don't want to compromise on your sleep. And I hear a lot of people say like, oh yeah, 7 to 9 hours of sleep excuse me, is a good amount. But really, that's for adults. For kids, they really need 9 to 11 hours of sleep. And
I think my kid could do 9 to 11 easy.
Yeah.
The other thing that they've mentioned too that I've seen, and this ties into, you mentioned the vitamin D, but healthy diet, eating. And that, in the doctor that I was saying, all those things tie in, mental health, physical health, and a healthy diet, they all tie in together, especially right now. It
very much ties in. In fact, a lot of, so if your digestion, if you have digestive issues, right, that's something that you want to pay attention to, because the digestive system is directly related also to the immune system, and also like serotonin, which is like the happy chemical that we think of as being produced in the brain, is actually produced more in the gut than in the brain. And so you want to have a healthy digestive system and put lots of good nutrients in your body so that you can have the whole system is working in unison.
I've seen during my runs or whatever, going around Buttonwood Park, there's a lot of people out right now trying to do that, more so than I usually see during other times, in March for sure.
Yes.
And obviously you're seeing people when you're out doing your thing too.
Yes, because I'm a walker, so I'll walk, I walk a lot. And it was interesting because just about right before all of this happened, I remember being outside thinking, my goodness, it is unseasonably warm in the wintertime and there's nobody out, there's no kids out. Because I have this whole thing about electronics also, where
well, I was going to get into that. We'll get into that in a second, yeah.
And I thought, my goodness, there's nobody out. This is so sad. It's so nice. And then ever since this happened, now when I'm out walking, I'm like, oh, good. I see families out, together, where the whole family is out, mom, dad, and kids, and it's very nice to see.
I saw a mother with her 3, and they had to be elementary school kids. They were running, I use the word loosely, down Maple Street, and the mother was like, let's go, come on. But it was good to see, because you don't usually see that, but the kids, she wanted obviously the kids to get out and get some exercise.
So I'm hoping that, for me, I'm somebody that practices gratitude on a regular basis also, and one of the things that I'm hoping will come out of this is more physical activity. And
you kind of hit it too, family time.
And family time.
And people have really, I don't want to say that they haven't just rediscovered their families, because I'm sure there's a lot of close families, but in this situation, they're really not dealing with anybody. All they're doing is dealing with their families.
Right.
And they have to do things together now.
And it's a really good time to really take stock in like what the family is doing and how the family's functioning and how they can function best together, because a lot of people sometimes they say absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Right,
People have a lot of togetherness right now, so they're really learning each other.
A couple things here. I know we got a couple minutes left here, but what is causing I don't want to say the panic, but you look at toilet paper, you look at other things. Why are people, when there's really no need, shortage-wise, but it's just, so why are people, the frozen foods are gone, and there seems...
It's just panic, so people are in,
But is it a mental thing, or is it just, is it the unknown, I guess?
I think it's the unknown. You know, people go into panic mode. You know, people are in fight or flight right now, or freeze. You know, so either people don't know what to do, or you know, they start. You know, I think the unknown of like, gee, are the supplies going to run out? What's going on? I mean, when you have an unknown situation like this, it is, you know, difficult to know what to predict, because this has never happened before. At least not in our lifetime. I mean, there have been other pandemics, but you know, not quite like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to us now, because you talked about it. You love your electronic devices. I use the word
I don't
loosely.
know if I love them.
But in a sense, I mean, you and I have talked about it. There's a curse with them, but right now they are so critical.
It's the lifeline. So right.
And just FaceTime and what have you, just connecting. I know that my son was playing video games because he can with his friends in another house or whatever. So
right.
Talk to me a little bit about that. It's the curse and the good, especially from your standpoint too.
Right. So there are a lot of great things about electronics. I mean, you know, in terms of in our digital media, right? So we can get information, we can stay connected through FaceTime, through Skype, we can learn through electronics and all of that. The issue that I have with electronics is, you know, electronics they flooded our homes without any warning signs on them, and there really are some things that we should be aware of. So, for example, you know, if you spend a lot of time on electronics, and again, I would say, if you know, it somewhat depends on what you're doing, right? So if you're learning, you know, that's a positive thing. If you're connected to family, that's a positive thing. But you know, if you're just gaming all the time and you know, on social media and all that, those types of activities, the longer you're on doing those types of activities, there is research out there that shows that is linked to a higher rate of, you know, depression, anxiety, and those types of things. The other thing that's a concern with you know, electronics is just using them too late into the night. So you know, the blue light that comes off of the screen mimics daylight, and so a lot of people now have sleep difficulties because what they're doing is they're using electronics right up until, you know, bedtime, and then they can't get to sleep, then they're back on them and whatnot. And so you know, I think having a time limit of how long you're on electronics during the day is helpful. Monitoring what type of content you're consuming when you're on electronics is also important. And then removing electronics completely an hour before bedtime is also helpful. I know the Mark Center did a study that showed that 70 to 80% of kids say they go back on electronics after their parents go to sleep. So it is important to remove it at night.
How important is it for people to touch base with other people, especially right now that are isolated because we can't go out? Your grandparents, your cousins or whatever. I mean, even friends, I guess, because you want that. How important is it, and I'm thinking of the people that are perhaps alone, how important is it to touch base with them right now?
I think it's really super important, very important, and thank you for bringing that up, because I know, you know, there are even some people in my own family who are isolated, and right now, you know, doing some additional outreach to those people, because, you know, they can be, you know, prone to depression or anxiety or anything like that. So I think it's important, very important, to stay connected to people, especially if they're living alone.
And mentally, this is gonna be helpful to people as well.
Oh yeah. You know, the thing that I found is that for as many people that are out there that really need extra help right now, with whether it's depression, anxiety, or whatever it is, there are probably that many people out there as well that want to help. And so really, if those people, those two groups can get together, that would be great. And I think there's nothing wrong at all with asking for help, you know. And right now is really not the time to be proud. Really, the time now is, if you need the help, get it, because there are people out there who are really looking forward to helping other people, and I've had people call me saying, how can I volunteer? How can I help?
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, how can I help? What can I do? I just want to help.
Well, I know people are worried, again, talking heads that losing their jobs and what have you, that is creating more mental health issues, not just the worried about getting the virus, but how do we pay the bills and what have you, and the day-to-day things. So just creating more stress.
Right. So, and those are very real stressors, and I think our world is going to change as we know it, for sure. I think for the people who are out of work, it might be a really good time just to maybe rethink, maybe learn some new skills, take some free classes, just to maybe prepare for, when everybody does get back to work, they maybe have some other options.
And hopefully in the summertime when the weather's better, things.
Yeah.
We got 2 minutes left. I just want to get, I don't want you to summarize, but sort of what do you want folks to take away from what we're talking about today? What are the important things really that you think people need to know, especially at this time?
I think it's important to get the bad stuff out, right? As far as, anxiety and stress management, get the bad stuff out. If you need to watch news, get your update and then shut it off. Make sure that you're engaging very intentionally in self-care type activities where you're sleeping well, you're getting enough exercise, you're making sure that you're staying connected to other people. Eat well, eat healthy, and reach out to the people that need you. And if you are in need of more emotional support, reach out for that, because there are people out there that want to do that.
I was going to ask you, for parents of school children right now, what have you, if they have questions, who should they call in the school department right now?
So we have all of the school adjustment counselors have been reaching out.
Okay.
But they can certainly call the school department, and the main operator can connect them to the schools. I know that the schools are answering, if they want to leave a voicemail, they can, they can leave a time that somebody can get back to them.
And that's a good point too. I mean, the school department is working full time right now. It's not a break for you guys, just like the city. I mean, your department is just like other departments in the school are there. They're just working remotely, really.
Right.
So it's there. So that's going to do it. I appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much. Great information, and we'll stay in touch for sure.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.